Hello everyone. In today's Cretaceous profile, we're going to be doing is Albertosaurus is a genus of large tyrannosaurid theropod dinosaur that lived in northwestern North America. During the early to middle Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous period, about 71 to 68 million years ago. There are possible records that Albertosaurus lived in the Campanian, but it is not confirmed officially or not. There is only one type species, and that is Albertosaurus sarcophagus. Was apparently restricted in range to modern-day Canadian province of Alberta, after which the genus is named. Although an indeterminate species has been discovered in Mexico, scientists disagree on the content of the genus, and some recognize Gorgosaurus as a second species. And for its discovery, the type specimen is a partial skull collected on June 9th, 1884, from an outcrop of the Horseshoe Canyon Formation, alongside the Red Deer River in Alberta. It was recovered by an expedition of the Geological Survey of Canada, led by the famous geologist Joseph Bird Tyrrell. Due to lack of specialized equipment, the almost complete skull could only be partially secure. In 1889, Tyrrell's colleagues Thomas Chamser Weston found an incomplete, smaller skull associated with some skeletal material at the location nearby. The two skulls were assigned to the pre-existing species Laelaps and Cretaceous by Edward Jugger Cope in 1892. Although the name Laelaps was preoccupied by a genus of mite and had changed to Albertosaurus in 1877 by Orthodox Charles Marsh, Cope stubbornly refused to recognize the new name created by his arch-rival. However, Lawrence Lamb used the named Albertosaurus instead of Laelaps when he described the remains in detail in 1903 and 1904, which was a combination first coined by Oliver Perry Hay in 1902. Shortly later, Osborne pointed out that D. increstus was based on a generic tyrannosaurid teeth. So the two Horseshoe Canyon skulls could not be confidently referred to that species. The Horseshoe Canyon skulls also differed markedly from the remains of Albertosaurus. So Osborne gave them a new name, Albertosaurus sarcophagus, in 1905. He did not describe the remains in any great detail citing Lambie's complete description the year before. Both specimens, the holotype CMN 5600 and the paratype CMN 5601, are stored in the Canadian Museum of Nature by Ottawa. By the early 21st century, some concerns had arisen that due to the damaged state of the holotype, Albertosaurus might be a neuromotrodome, a dubious, that could only be used for the type specimen itself because other fossils could not reliably be assigned to it. However, in 2010, Thomas Carr established that the holotype, the paratype, and comparable later finds all share a single common unique trait, or anatomorphy, the possession of an enlarged pneumatic openings in the back of the rim of the side of the palatine bone proves that Albertosaurus is a valid taxon. On August 11th, 1910, American paleontologist Barnum Brown discovered the remains of a large group of Albertosaurus at another quarry alongside the Red Deer River. Because of the large number of bones and the limited time available, Brown's party did not collect every specimen but made sure to collect remains from all of the individuals that they could identify in the bone bed. Among the bone deposits in the American Museum of Natural History in New York City are 7 sets of right material metatarsals along with 2 isolated toe bones and did not match any of metatarsals in size. This indicated the presence of at least 9 individuals in the quarry. Paleontologist Philip J. Curry of the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology rediscovered the bone bed in 1997 and resumed field work at the site, which is now located inside Dry Island Buffalo Jump Provincial Park. Further excavation from 1997 to 2005 turned up the remains of 13 more individuals of various ages, including a definitive 2-year-old and a very old individual, estimated at over 10 meters, 33 feet long. None of these individuals are known from complete skeletons, and most are represented by remains in both museums. Excavation continued until 2008, when the minimum number of individuals present had been established at 12. On the basis of preserved elements that occurred only once in a skeleton, and at 26 if mirrored elements were contained when differing in size due to the ontogeny. A total of 1,128 Albertosaurus bones have been secured, which is the largest concentration of large theropod fossils known from the Cretaceous. Other discoveries. In 1911, Burr Brown, during the second year of the American Museum of Natural History's operations in Alberta, uncovered a fragmentary partial Albertosaurus skull at the Red Deer River near Tollman Bridge, specimen AMNH 5222. William Parks described a new species in 1928, Albertosaurus antiqui, based on a partial skeleton lacking a skull that was excavated by Gus Lindbald and Ralph Hornrell near the Red Deer River in 1923. But this species has been considered identical to a sarcophagus since 1970. Park's specimen ROM 807 is housed in a Royal Ontario Museum in Toronto. There were no Albertosaurus fossils found from 1926 to 1972, but there has been an increase in findings since then, apart from the dry island bone bed. 6 more skulls and skeletons have since been discovered in Alberta and are housed in various Canadian museums. Specimen RTMP 81.010.001 was found in 1978 by amateur paleontologist Maurice Stuff. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name because they might mistaken that word as that word. So I'm not going to try to say it or try to pronounce it. RTMP 8850098.001 was found by Maurice on June 16, 1985. RTMP 86.64.001 was found in December 1985. RTMP 86.205.001 was found in 1986. RTMP 9097.058.0001 was found in 1996. And then there is CMN 11315. Unfortunately, none of these skeletons were found with complete skulls. Fossils have been also reported from the North American states of Montana, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Missouri. But they are doubted that to be Albertosaurus and may not even belong to the genus Albertosaurus. There are 2 specimens from Albertosaurus sp to have been found in Mexico in 2 formations. Here's a size comparison to a human. Albertosaurus was a fairly large bipedal predator, but smaller than Tarbosaurus and T-Rex. Typical Albertosaurus adults measure up to 8 to 9 meters, 26 and 30 feet long, and weighed between 1.7 and 2.5 metric tons in body mass. Albertosaurus shared a similar body appearance with all other tyrannosaurids, Gorgosaurus in particular. Typical for a theropod, Albertosaurus was bipedal and balanced. its large, heavy head and torso, with long legs, muscular tail. However, Tyrannosaurus' forelimbs were extremely small for their body size, and they still retain only two functional fingers, the second being longer than the first. The legs were long and ended in a four-toed foot, on which the first toe, the hallux, was very short and did not reach the ground. The third toe was longer than the rest. Albertosaurus may have been able to reach walking speeds of 14 to 21 kilometers per hour, 8 to 13 miles per hour. At least for the younger individuals, had a high running speed is plausible. The massive skull of Albertosaurus, which was perched on the muscular short S-shaped neck, was about 1 meter, 3.3 feet long in the largest adults. Wide openings in the skull called fenestrae provide space for muscle attachment sites and sensory organs that reduced its overall weight. Its long jaws contained both sides combined 58 or more banana-shaped teeth. Larger tyrannosaurids possessed fewer teeth, but Gorgosaurus had 62, unlike most theropods. Albertosaurus and other tyrannosaurids were heterodont, with teeth of different forms depending on their positioning in the mouth. The premaxillary teeth at the tip of the upper jaw, four pair side, were much smaller than the rest, more closely packed, and D-shaped in cross sections. Like with T-Rex, the maxillary teeth of Albertosaurus were adapted in general form to resist lateral force extended by a struggling prey animal. The bite force of Albertosaurus was less formidable, however, with the maximum force by the back teeth reaching 3,413 newtons. Above the eyes were short bony crests that may have been brightly colored in life and possibly used by males, in particular in courtship to attract mates. And for its growth stage pattern, most age categories of Albertosaurus are represented in the fossil record. Using bone historically, the age of an individual animal at the time of death can often be determined, allowing growth rates to be estimated and compared with other species. The youngest known Albertosaurus is a 2-year-old, which has been discovered in Dry Island bone bed, which would have weighed about 50 kilograms, 110 pounds, and measures slightly more than 2 meters, 6.6 feet long. The 10 meters 33 feet specimen from the same quarry is 28 years old, the oldest and largest known when specimens of intermediate age and size are plotted on a graph. An S-shaped growth curve results, with the most rapid growth occurring in 4-year period ending around the 16th year of life. A pattern also seen in other tyrannosaurids. The growth rate during the phase was 122 kilograms, 269 pounds per year, based on an adult weighing 1.3 tons. Other studies have suggested higher adult weights, which would have affected the magnitude of the growth rate, but not the overall pattern. Tyrannosaurids, similar in size to Albertosaurus, had similar growth rates, although the much larger Tyrannosaurus rex grew at almost 5 times this rate, 601 kilograms, 1,325 pounds per year. At its peak, the end of the rapid growth phase suggests the onset of sexual maturity in Albertosaurus, although growth continued at a slower rate throughout the animal's lives. Sexual maturation, while still actively growing, appears to be a shared trait among small and large dinosaurs, as well as in large mammals like humans and elephants. This pattern of relatively early sexual maturation differs strikingly from the pattern in birds, which delay theirs maturity until after they have finished growing. During growth, thickening of the tooth morphology changed so much that had the association of young and adult skeletons of the dry island bone bed, not proven that they belong to the same taxon. The teeth of juveniles would likely been identified by statistical analysis as those of different species. Most known Albertosaurus individuals were aged 14 years or older at the time of death. Juvenile animals are rarely fossilized for several reasons, mainly preservation bias, where the smaller bones of younger animals were less likely to be preserved by fossilization than the larger bones of adults. Which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Find young animals that rarely fossilize, but adult fossils that you could find, but young or juveniles, there's only a rare chance if you find one. And a collection bias where smaller fossils are less likely to be noted by collectors in the field. Young Albertosaurs are relatively large for juveniles animals, but their remains are still rare. In the fossil record, when compared to adults, it has been suggested that the phenomenon is a consequence of life history rather than bias, and that fossils of juvenile Albertosaurus are rare because they simply did not die as often as adults did. And for its pack behavior, in the dry island bone bed discovered by Baron Brown and his crew contains the remains of 26 Albertosaurus, the most individuals found in one locality of any large Cretaceous theropod, and the second most of any large theropod dinosaur behind the Allosaurus assembly at the Cleveland Lloyd Dinosaur Quarry in Utah. The group seems to be composed of one very old adult, 8 adults between 17 and 23 years old, 7 subadults undergoing their rapid growth phases at between 12 and 16 years old, and 6 juveniles between the ages of 2 and 11 years old that had not yet been reached the growth phase. The near absence of herbivore remains, and the similar state of preservation common to the many individuals at the Albertosaurus bonebed quarry led Corey to conclude that the locality was not a predator trap such as the La Brea tar pits in California, and that all the preserved animals died at the same time. Curry claims that this is evidence of pack behavior. Other scientists are skeptical, observing that animals may have been driven together by a drought, flood, or other reasons. There is plentiful evidence for gregarious behavior among herbivorous dinosaurs, including ceratopsians and hadrosaurs. However, only rarely are so many dinosaurian predators found at the same site. Small theropods like Deinonychus and Coelophysis have been found in aggregations such as larger predators such as Allosaurus and Mapusaurus. There is some evidence of gregarious behavior in other tyrannosaurids, as well as fragmented remains of smaller individuals were found alongside Sue, the Tyrannosaurus mounted in the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, and a bone bed in the Tuametsu Formation of Montana contains at least 3 individuals of Daspletosaurus preserved alongside several hadrosaurs. These findings may corroborated the evidence for social behavior in Albertosaurus, although some or all the above localities may represent temporally or unnatural aggregation. Others have speculated that instead of social groups, at least some of these finds represent Komodo dragon-like mobbing of carcasses, where aggressive competition leads to the same, some of the predators being killed and even cannibalized. The evidence of cannibalism was later reported in 2024. And paleoecology. Most fossils of Albertosaurus are known from Upper Horseshoe Canyon Formation in Alberta, these younger units of these geologic formation date to the early Maastrichtian age of the late Cretaceous period, about 70 to 68 million years ago. Immediately below this formation is the Bear-Paul Shell, a marine formation representing a section of the western interior seaway. The inland sea was receding as the climate cooled and sea levels subsided towards the end of the Cretaceous, thus exposing land that had previously been underwater. It was not a smooth process, however, and the seaway would periodically rise to cover parts of the region throughout Horseshoe Canyon before finally receding altogether in the year after. Due to the changing sea level, many different environments are represented in the Horseshoe Canyon Formation, including offshore and near-shore marine habitats and coastal habitats, such as lagoons, estuaries, and tidal flats. Numerous coral seams represent ancient peat swamps. Like most other vertebrate fossils from the formation, Albertosaurus remains are found in deposits laid down in the deltas and floodplains of large rivers during the later half of the Horseshoe Canyon times. The fauna of the Horseshoe Canyon Formation is well known, as vertebrate fossils, including those of dinosaurs, are very common. Sharks, rays, sturgeon, bowfins, gars, mammals, including multituberculates and marsupials. Marsupial Deltophodon. The saltwater plesiosaur, Lorospondylus, has been found in the marine sediments in the Horseshoe Canyon, while freshwater environments were populated by turtles, Champsosaurus, and crocodilians. Dinosaurs dominated the fauna, especially hadrosaurs, which make up half of all dinosaurs known. These included genera Edmontosaurus, Saurolophus, and Hypacrosaurus. Ceratopsians and ornithomimids were also very common, together making up another third of the known fauna. Along with much rarer ankylosaurines and pachycephalosaurs, all of these animals would have been prey for a diverse array of carnivorous dinosaur theropods, including troodontids, dromaeosaurids, and carinacids. Intermingled with the Albertosaurus remains of the dry island bone bed, the bones of small theropods like Albertonicus were found. Adult Albertosaurs were the apex predators in their environments, with intermediate niches possibly filled by juvenile Albertosaurus. And that's it for Albertosaurus. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, and see you later, guys.